Oh, hey everyone, you just caught me in the middle of educating myself more about the English language. I can't be doing stupid stuff all the time, and that's why I'm here learning about more words, like this one right here, proselytize. To convert or attempt to convert someone from one religion, belief, or opinion to another. What a zany vocabble. How about another one? How about here, tranquility. Oh, that's odd. Am I looking at antonyms? So, Far Cry 5, a game released by Ubisoft in 2018 for PS4, Xbox One, PC, and Google Stadia. Oh crap, that existed, I forgot. Now, Far Cry has always been a somewhat popular franchise, but it's never exactly become a titan within the gaming industry. The closest it probably ever came to that was with this game here, as it is actually the best-selling game within the series, alongside being one of the best-selling games of 2018, which is kind of surprising given the whole of everything else that released in that year, but whatever. However, unlike the other heavy hitters released in 2018, the real draw of Far Cry 5 isn't so much its compelling narrative or likable characters, but instead its open world and chaotic sandbox, which is kinda what drew me in. If we go back to 2018, we'll find that I originally picked this game up on PC, played it for a while, went, yeah, this is fun, and returned to playing other games. What games? I don't know, probably Fallout 4. However, later that year, me and a friend went to a gaming expo in Ames, Iowa, and what did they have set up for us to play? That's right, Halo 3. Far Cry 5. So once 2019 rolled around and my friend got a PS4, we both picked the game up and had a blast playing it. I have so many fond memories of those days, and although the game never exactly had any larger impact on me like some other games have, that's alright because it provides something else. A glimpse into what initially got me in the video games. Pure, unadulterated fun. Alright, that's enough of being sentimental. Let's actually begin discussing the game itself. Taking place in 2018, Far Cry 5 brings us to the fictional Hope County, Montana, where a dangerous new cult named Eden's Gate is running amok. So it's our job as the unnamed rookie deputy, who we get to create, might I add, to go in and arrest the leader of Eden's Gate. This is Joseph Seed, leader of Eden's Gate and local megalomaniac. Oh lord, where's the ATF when you need him? So anyway, Joseph has been preaching about the end of the world, and as a result, Eden's Gate began solidifying their control over Hope County, making it into a fortress. He also holds remarkable control over his followers, partially through religion and partially through less than legal means. Anyway, you're attacked by cultists upon trying to arrest Joseph, which results in your helicopter crashing and you being saved by this man who drags us to his bunker. His name is Dutch. Don't worry if you don't remember his name because I completely forgot he existed. Anyway, he gives you a huge exposition dump and tasks you with liberating his island from the cultist, which is boring, so let's just fast forward to the part where the island's liberated. So after you spend like 30 minutes killing everyone on Dutch's island, you are free to attack one of the heralds of Eden's Gate, who control the 3 major regions of the map. The easiest of the 3 regions is Holland Valley, which is controlled by John Seed, who is in charge of the cult propaganda machine. Hebane River serves as the medium difficulty region and is controlled by Faith Seed, who, controls drug production. Actually, yeah, that checks out. And finally, the hardest region of the map is the Whitetail Mountains, which are controlled by Jacob Seed, who is in charge of the cult's security, as well as a bit of attempted brainwashing on the side. Beyond this vague goal of taking out the heralds of the cult, we are free to run wild in Hope County and create as much chaos as possible. And cause chaos, we will. Now, as you've probably figured out, Far Cry 5 is a first-person shooter, and as with all FPS games, you have a large arsenal of weaponry at your disposal. Now yes, you do have your FPS staples like assault rifles, handguns, SMGs, LMGs, snipers, and shotguns, but the fun part lies within the miscellaneous weapons the game allows you to utilize. A more basic one is the fan favorite bow and arrow, which allows you to stealthily take out enemies and animals alike in the coolest way possible. Flamethrowers also make an appearance to fill that role of the utter chaos weapon, and good god do they serve that role well. Melee weapons also have a major role to play in the game as some of the easiest weapons to find and some of the most interesting. However, the real fun comes with the completely out there weapons. First is the Magnapulsar, which is a literal alien gun, which can push people around as well as on occasion vaporize them. And second is the Shovel Launcher. Okay. I might have some issues. Alongside our vast arsenal of weapons, which might I add are all more or less legal in the United States, we also get quite a few vehicles to utilize in our adventure. To begin with the lamest category, we have the boats, which are just boats. We also have our land-based vehicles, which can range from mediocre sports car to guerrilla warfare at its finest, and finally ending with, "Yeehaw, partner, we're riding it down, giddy up, partner!" And possibly the coolest of the vehicles present in the game are the air vehicles, which were actually a new addition to the series in this game. We have a bunch of helicopters, which are neat, but let's be real, the planes are where it's at. I mean, come on, they're planes, that's cool. And all this stuff is really cool, but you kinda need someone to play with in order to get the full enjoyment out of everything, and that's where the co-op mode comes into play. You and a buddy can hop into the same game and play through the entirety of the game together. I had so much fun in this co-op mode back in the day. I had a friend that I would play this game with for hours, and we would do the stupidest stuff. We would snipe buffalo for money, light entire towns on fire, attack buffalo with ATVs and aircraft, fly planes very poorly, launch mortar rounds at buffalo. Man, what did we have against the buffalo?
I regret absolutely nothing.
But what if you don't have any friends? What can you do then? Well, don't fret, because this game introduced a companion system to the Far Cry series, which was named Guns for Hire. In total, there are 9 companions that you can find throughout the world, plus an additional 3 slots that you can fill up with generic NPCs. These 9 companions can range from fairly basic to pretty frickin' rad, as the kids might say. So let's discuss them all by ranking them, because nothing sets your ego straight quite like being ranked in 9th place. Speaking of which, Adelaide Drubman finds herself in 9th place despite the fact that the helicopter she pilots is pretty handy. No, the real reason she finds herself so low is due to the lack of a stealthful approach to the combat, as well as far too many dirty jokes. Now, these jokes are initially funny, but good God, when they're said like every 30 seconds, it just gets old. Got to a point that while doing a quest with her, I had to dismiss her just because I couldn't stand it anymore. Anyway, in 8th place, I'll be blatantly spitting in the face of public opinion by placing Boomer the dog here. Now, before you go and get your pitchforks, this good boy here just isn't very effective in combat and has no sense of self-preservation. The only thing that kept him from last place was the fact that we were able to pet him, which, alright, fine, that redeems him quite a bit. In 7th place, we have Nick Rye, who is possibly the most situational companion due to that plane he has. Now, I contemplated placing him higher due to the plane's ability to deal significant damage, but in regular combat, you have to wait so long for him to get into position that just isn't worth it. Now, in the later parts of the game where you're dealing with a fair amount of planes, he comes in real handy, but the fact that for most of the game, he's just a pain to use, I think this position fits him perfectly fine. And moving into 6th place, we find ourselves out of the companions that have a vital flaw and begin moving into the more personal preference category. And with that, I think Jess Black fits perfectly here. Now, the fact that she can snipe enemies with a bow and arrow is amazing for stealth, and I love the fact that she has flaming arrows. However, she fares much worse when it comes to non-stealth engagements. When fighting an enemy right in front of her, she has significant issues hitting them, which is rather strange given how accurate she is at range. Another companion with similar issues as Jess is Grace Armstrong, who finds herself in 5th place. Once again, at range, she's amazing, but once you get her into open combat, she begins to fail. The only thing that really places Grace above Jess is the fact that instead of continuing to rely on her ranged weapons in close quarters, she will switch to a machine pistol, which, I'll admit, still isn't the best, but it's still better. Moving into the top 4, we have Peaches the Cougar, who despite her being best in stealth, she still puts up a great fight in open combat. The only major downside I found was that she has relatively low health, but that's okay because she is pettable. In 3rd place, we have the one, the only, Herc Drubman, everyone's favorite pinhead. Now, aside from his actually entertaining jokes that he certainly did not get from his mother Adelaide, Herc by himself doesn't really bring a whole lot to the table. But his rocket launcher sure does. Oh yeah, it can also track enemy vehicles. He also has a tendency to blow himself up with it, so I mean, yeah, you win some, you lose some. And in second place, we have Sharky, who finds himself in this position for a multitude of reasons. First off, his shotgun is actually rather deadly with that whole dragon's breath ammunition thing he's got going on. And second off is he is immune to all explosives, which is just really nice. My only complaint is that when going up against, we'll say, larger enemies, he tends to not do the best. And now, finally, the best companion in Far Cry 5 is Cheeseburger, the beloved diabetic grizzly bear himself. And what do I have to say about him? You can pet him, and he's a one-shot to most, if not all, enemies, because, again, he is a 600-pound chaos factory. Now, despite having hundreds of ways to cause chaos, such as with your colorful cast of companions, a game needs a good world to facilitate said chaos, and thankfully Far Cry 5 delivers and then some. The setting of rural Montana lends itself very well to the chaos the game facilitates, with a landscape ranging from the vast fields of Holland Valley to the rolling hills of Hebane River, and finally ending with the tall peaks of the Whitetail Mountains. These very locations allow for the gameplay to stay fresh as you're forced to implement different strategies to tackle each region's unique challenges. Or, you could just continue blowing everything up that moves, that also works. Though it isn't only the varied regions that keep gameplay fresh, which makes the world of Far Cry 5 wonderful, it's actually the activities within the world. Side quests are the name of the game when it comes to world development, and thankfully we get all kinds of wacky adventures to partake in, such as helping a conspiracy theorist teleport himself to unknown lands in order to stop an alien invasion, help an irritable filmmaker by the name of Guy Marvel, who has a knack for breaking the fourth wall, might I add, create a quiet film set by doing the complete opposite of that, a whole bunch of extreme stunts inspired by the famous Hope County stuntman Clutch Nixon, or this one which I can't say out loud without a chuckle. You get a shirt for it. Alongside these side quests, which allow us to meet the people of Hope County, the prepper stashes help us understand the fact that way too many people still think Y2K is around the corner, while also giving us plenty of goodies such as wads of cash or perk magazines. Usually these stashes require us to complete some sort of puzzle in order to unlock the room which the goodies are located in. These puzzles usually take the form of finding a key, which is kinda boring, but sometimes you get a really unique puzzle. Like this one where you have to use your grappling hook to swing underneath this old rail bridge. Although most of the stashes are very formulaic, that does not mean that they aren't fun, because you can get into some rather entertaining situations while making your way to the goodies. For instance, I found this one which I had to make my way through a haunted barn before getting to the stash itself, or this other one where I chased down a bear with a baseball bat. That wasn't part of the stash, I just got sidetracked. And although side quests and prepper stashes are fun and all, we might as well bring the total number of world-building activities up to an uneven 3 by discussing outposts. These are your standard enemy hotspots which you have to clear out so your allies can move in. Pretty standard stuff, but the locations really provide for a variety of combat encounters which keep them fairly interesting. These outposts can range from more developed areas like the main town of the game or the ranch of one of the cult's heralds, all the way to a junkyard scattered with the husks of old cars or an old convent, which something tells me the nuns no longer live there, just a hunch. Utilizing the varied locations, you can tackle these outposts in numerous ways, such as silently picking off enemies from afar, going in guns blazing, or my favorite, lure all the enemies in the one spot using a wild animal, then proceed to throw an explosive on their heads. And although side quests, prepper stashes, and outposts all provide varying ways to channel the pure chaos that the game hands you, that said, pure chaos can sometimes become a little overwhelming. So thankfully, Hope County provides us with two fairly chill side activities. The first is hunting, which is cool and all, but if it's not shaped like a buffalo, I'm not interested. Though fishing, on the other hand, count me in. Man, I do not know what it is about this side activity, but when the chaos of the game becomes a little too much, I just love to find a nice tucked away pond or creek and just fish for a while. I don't know what it is about it, because I am the farthest thing from a fisherman in real life. Whoa, let's go, the lake's returned! But I find it kinda comforting. you can just forget about the hundreds of cultists you just gunned down and begin to just exist in the world. Alright, that's enough with getting sidetracked. Let's get back on task. So after having numerous misadventures while attacking the 3 cult heralds, including, but not limited to, non-consensual tattoos, being repeatedly drugged, and attempted brainwashing, we ultimately murder all 3 heralds, which doesn't exactly make Joseph that happy. So we're invited to go and confront him at his compound. Once arriving at his church, we are given 2 options on how to proceed: walk away, or finally arrest Joseph. If we decide to walk away, we attempt to leave the county with our allies in order to call in the National Guard, only for that previously mentioned attempted brainwashing to kick in as we murder everybody. Now I must admit, that's rather anticlimactic. So let's rewind and choose the timeline in which we finally arrest Joseph. What happens then? The end of the bloody world, that's what happens. So one frantic race to the Dutch's bunker later and, oh, all of our friends are dead. And now we're stuck in a bunker with Joseph for the foreseeable future. Well, that's kind of a raw deal. Both endings of the game conclude with everything going sideways and all of our friends dead. Is there an ending in which everyone survives? Well, actually, yes. We just have to rewind all the way back to when we were attempting to arrest Joseph in the very beginning of the game. All we have to do is not push any buttons for a couple minutes, and everyone just decides that arresting Joseph is way more trouble than it's worth. All the chaos of the game is avoided, and we just pack up and head home. And now that we finally have a satisfying conclusion to the story, you may think it's time to slap your knees and say, well, but stop. Sit back down. There's still more to talk about. Like Far Cry Arcade. Functioning as the online element of the game, Far Cry Arcade allows players to create and share custom-made experiences for others to play. There are 2 main types of experiences which can be created within the arcade: single player or multiplayer. Single player maps tend to focus on taking out a set number of enemies around the map, which sounds rather boring, but the custom made maps themselves often serve as the main draw. Some of the maps I found include a cops and robbers bank heist, as well as a laboratory break-in. However, out of the maps I played, the most memorable was this one, which is a recreation of the first level from GoldenEye 007 on the Nintendo 64. Despite this being by far the most memorable, the other maps were all fun in their own right, despite them all having the exact same end goal of eliminating all the enemies. Though, if we look on the other side of the coin, the multiplayer doesn't suffer from the same repetitiveness as the single player, as it tends to have more unique experiences. I would say that if I could find a single populated lobby. So, given the fact that Far Cry Arcade isn't necessarily the reason people play Far Cry 5, and pairing that with the game's age, the multiplayer just doesn't see much traffic anymore. This is a real bummer, because there are some real fun experiences in it. One experience that I fondly remember was essentially dodgeball using shovels. But alas, we can no longer play it. However, something which we can continue to play is the DLC. Yup, that's right, that's the best transition I ever did. Anyway, 3 DLCs released over the course of summer 2018 titled Hours of Darkness, Lost on Mars, and Living Dead Zombies. Now, I have to admit, I've never actually played any of these DLCs for this game, and only just bought them. Partially because I wanted to leave no stone unturned, and also because the gold edition of the game was only $10. So, join me as I experience the DLC of Far Cry 5 for the first time. And going in release order, we start with Hours of Darkness, which is set during the Vietnam War. The premise of the DLC is that you're shot down behind enemy lines and must make it back to base by slinking through the jungle. Now, you could just beeline for your base, but come on, that's lame. There's side activities for us to complete. What side activities, you might ask? Mostly attacking MVA positions, such as these AA guns, which allow us to call in napalm strikes. You can also save your fellow soldiers from POW camps, which allows them to become companions. Though, be careful, as when they die, they're actually gone for the remainder of the DLC's runtime. So whatever you do not drive a truck through numerous MVA positions expecting the best outcome. Do as I say, not as I do. Overall, this was a fun DLC, but it felt like more of the same from the base game. Though something that is nowhere near the base game both figuratively and literally is the Lost on Mars DLC. Similar to its setting of Mars, this DLC is completely out there, and I just love it for that. You play as Nick Rye, yes, that Nick Rye, after he gets abducted by Herc, yes, that Herc. Well, actually just his head. To fight aliens on the surface of Mars. The goal of this DLC is to reboot all the terminals around Mars to help stop an alien invasion. And along the way, you and Herc in the form of Brobot here get to explore all the nooks and crannies Mars has to offer and partake in some rather entertaining side content like defeating alien queens, finding Herc's body parts, or even some new Clutch Nixon challenges. And although this is rather entertaining, the insanity gets cranked up to 11 by the end of the DLC when you're tasked with defeating an army of Herc clones while attempting to defeat an evil AI who intends to destroy humanity. Overall, this DLC is just incredibly out there with about everything it hands you, and that's what makes it so fun. Another DLC which has fun with its premise is our third and final DLC, Living Dead Zombies. Now, I want to briefly clear something up about this DLC. When it was getting released, all the discussion from Ubisoft and the Far Cry community was that it was a co-op experience, and that you would need to join up with a buddy. That's not true. I don't know why that's the angle they decided to take it, because it likely hurt sales, but whatever. Tangent over. How's the DLC itself? Surprisingly fun, actually, because you're playing through these corny zombie movie pitches from everyone's favorite irritable filmmaker, Guy Marvel. Now, you start off in some more basic pitches like farmer fending off zombie hordes or soldier gunning down zombies and zombie Sasquatches on a bridge, but as the DLC continues, the pitches become more and more unique. How unique, you might ask? Well, we have a secret agent taking out the source of the zombie plague, a spoof on the Fast and the Furious, and my favorite being the park ranger mission because it just really plays with the movie pitch angle. Throughout the level, we have constant bickering between Guy Marvel and the man he's pitching to, which changes how the level plays, such as changing the time of day, the entire premise of the pitch, or randomly throwing enemies into the level like, I don't know, like an entire dragon. All in all, this DLC is way more fun than I expected going into it, and I think I have to say that it was my favorite out of the three. And with all that being said, I have to say that Far Cry 5 is certainly a game which I hold close to my heart. With its incredibly fun gameplay, perfect sandbox for utter chaos, and ability to both create fun and have fun with itself, it certainly makes it one of the greatest games to unwind with. And apparently, I'm not the only person who believes this, as Far Cry 5 is the best-selling game in the Far Cry franchise, as I already established, with over 10 million copies being sold. It also saw the series gain a bit of a new life online, as you can still find people playing this game on platforms like YouTube. And this popularity didn't go unnoticed by Ubisoft, as not even a year later, in early 2019, they released Far Cry New Dawn, a direct sequel to Far Cry 5, specifically after the ending where the world is bathed in the glow of the atom. Now, New Dawn is a weird game, as in some areas it significantly improved on Far Cry 5, such as with some side content, but also on the other hand, the sandbox that the game offers is just way less compelling. We also all must agree that they butchered my beloved Hawkeye state, which is a rather large sin. Overall, Far Cry 5 remains a high point to many for the Far Cry franchise, as both New Dawn and the later released Far Cry 6 still continue to generate mixed feelings. And although I did thoroughly enjoy my time with both subsequent games, I do have to admit that Far Cry 5 is certainly the better game, and pairing that with its special spot in my heart, I must say that Far Cry 5 has earned an exceptional spot as one of my favorite games within what I am labeling the pure chaos subgenre of video games. Well, that most certainly was a riveting time, but I don't really see how Far Cry 5 here is the definition of tranquility. Oh well, I guess the old saying goes, a broken dictionary is only right twice a day. So let's pick another definition out of here, shall we? Let's go with this. Domestic terrorism. Oh, that's why that's in here.